All right, what's going on? Welcome to Around the Bases, Thursday, January 26, 2023. Joined by Jay McLovin and the stat guy this morning. How's it going, Jay?
It's going better than it is for Dak Prescott. Not only does this guy not get a Super Bowl ring this year, but his girlfriend, quote unquote, broke up with him. And she's pretty hot looking girl. But he said she broke up with him because he couldn't put a ring on it. Interesting. What a time to be alive.
Well, that's because Dak Prescott doesn't know what a ring looks like.
Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. He needs to go visit Troy Aikman and get some lessons. I'd say go visit, only because it's cowboy lore,
Hell, he could go visit. He could visit Tony Romo because Tony Romo's been to two more Super Bowls than Troy Aikman's been to.
Tony Romo hasn't.
He's announced 3 of them.
Oh, I got you. Okay. One for the stat guy. Gonzo, you want to jump in the water? It's nice, warm, and toasty.
Now's your chance to take a shot at the Cowboys, Chris. It's open season.
I've been taking shots at Cowboys on him a lot. I'll give Jay
Hey,
a break.
look, Chris can't take a shot at nobody. Hey, Chris is getting Jeff Saturday back as his head coach. That man can't say shit to nobody.
Hey, I've been telling you guys that the whole time. That's who you go fucking hire.
You know what? And I'm sorry, we're gonna go there just for one brief moment. When your team is mediocrity, literally there is no pressure on you. There is no pressure. Nobody's coming after you. The next day, nobody's saying shit to you. But for some reason, if you're a Cowboys fan, regardless of whether you're a mediocrity or you're great or you're somewhere in the middle, they're coming for you regardless. I just want to say, it's hard to be a Cowboys fan. It's got to be easy to be a Colts fan, probably easy to be a Minnesota fan. Do you understand the pressure that comes with being a Cowboy? You've got to have some thick skin. It's that guy. Good morning.
Hi.
How's it going, stat guy? How are you this morning?
Oh, it's going. I'm sick of snow. I've seen enough of it in the last 2 days. I just wanted to stop.
And nobody told you to be this Wisconsin for crying out loud.
It's not even snow. It's like an inch of snow, but then it melts because it gets to be it's an inch of snow, and then it gets to be around 33, 34, so then it starts to melt, and then the stuff turns to ice overnight because then it freezes, and then the snow goes on top of the ice again in the morning.
Yeah, that's what happened to us this morning.
Yeah,
it started to melt. Snow got up to about 40, started to melt, and then froze overnight. So it was a little slick this morning now.
And people forget how to drive in Wisconsin when it snows. I don't understand why. You fucking live here. You know it snows for 5, 6, 7 months out of the year. You should know how to drive in it.
Oh, man. It's the same way here in Indiana. Motherfuckers want to go 5 miles an hour like they've never seen snow before. Pisses me the fuck off, too.
Hey, since we're talking about Wisconsin and snow and crazy bullshit, you know what pisses me off is when I'm trying to go from Sheboygan to Fond du Lac, and it's one freaking road. One road. And it's a 2-lane road.
151.
You get that fucker that's driving a damn tractor 8 miles an hour.
Yep, Highway 151.
And you get on your cell phone, you call your boss and say, look, I left an hour early, but this fucker keeps going 8 miles an hour. I might not make it there till noon, and it's 6.
That's why you take a stinking video as you're driving. See, boss, I wasn't kidding.
I'm just saying. And then it makes it even worse when you get a tractor and snow. That's even, oh my God, that's even worse.
Not all the time, because some tractors are nice and they'll plow the road in front of you.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. You get the tractor plowing the snow in front of you. That's even worse because it just takes even longer to get where you got to go. I mean, it's great, but it still sucks. But I will tell you, there's nothing worse than forgetting you don't have a scraper and you get out of work and your windshield's frozen and then you break your credit card trying to scrape the ice off. I'm just saying, okay, enough northern talk.
I've used credit cards fucking back in the day, CD cases.
Yeah, CD cases, that works too. I'm going to tell you right now, if you live in the North, the 2 most invaluable pieces of equipment you could ever have would be a snow shovel, and a scraper. Now, you can augment the shovel with the snowblower if you want, but if you run out of gas and you don't have a snow shovel, you're still screwed. So I'm still sticking with my story: snow shovel and an ice scraper. Those are the two most valuable tools if you're going to live in the state of Wisconsin that you require. Baseball. Jesus, man, let's talk some baseball.
Yeah, let's talk some baseball. What do you think about this Baseball Hall of Fame? Got a lot of people complaining about Scott Rowland getting in, and then I don't know this. And you got, in my opinion, players that should be in the Hall of Fame that are not, and then that might now not ever get in because their 10 years is either passed by or getting close to. It's just, I don't know. I think the Baseball Hall of Fame is starting to lose a little bit of the respect just with some of the way the baseball writers act and just with some of the decisions of holding people out. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like Scott Rowland was a good choice. I know a lot of people don't agree with that. I think it was a good choice. But you're always gonna have those people out there that no matter what, man, they're gonna disagree with it. You're gonna have the Facebook people pissed off because the person that they wanted didn't make it in. Whatever, it's all personal stuff. But I think Scott Rowland, look, the guy's like what, an 8-time GOAT. That guy, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going off memory here, but I believe it's eight Gold Gloves, and he's got 500 freaking home runs. Am I right? Is he run the four? Is he the 400 home run or 300 home run category?
I think I don't even know if he got to 400. I'll look quick. He's close to 400.
Yeah, so he's got, but anyway, he's close to 400. And I think his batting average was what, close to 300, wasn't it?
Let's see here. Scott Rowland was a 281 career hitter with 316 homers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, the guy's got the numbers, right? He hit the damn home run in Game 7 of the World Series for the Cardinals. I mean, look, the guy's come through in clutch moments, right? And then for some reason, they don't want to give him the All-Star. Me personally, I don't quite understand that. A lot of people say Andrew Jones, Gary Sheffield, but I don't think their numbers were any better. And then I've also seen on Facebook where they say, well, he wasn't like the top 3 third baseman. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame at their position that weren't within the top 10, but they still got in. So I just think there's a lot of bad arguments going around trying to support why Scott Rowland shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame when I think the guy deserves it. I mean, if you want to make a case for Billy Wagner, okay, I give you that too.
Well, the other thing that people don't realize too is he only had 300 home runs, but he had over 1,200 RBIs. And usually when you get that 1,000 RBI mark, you're going to be considered for the Hall of Fame.
Right. No, we don't need the mohawk on Stat Guy unless he wants to do a faux hawk. Now, Stat Guy, if you want to do a faux hawk, I'll support that. But
I'll go faux hawk.
Yeah, I think a faux hawk would be straight. I'd tell Gonzo to go faux hawk, but Gonzo's got the same problem I have. We don't have enough hair in the middle or on the side to support a faux hawk. So,
No, not at this point.
Hey, it is life. That is what life does to us. And by the way, if you want to sport a faux hawk, you better have a thick hairline. Don't be one of those guys that has thin hair and think you can do a faux hawk. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen.
I have thin hair and I can do it.
Hold on one moment. Just hold on one moment. One moment. Ain't nobody asked his damn opinion. No, but yeah, I think Scott Rowland deserves it. I think Billy Wagner should get it at some point. If Billy Wagner doesn't get it next year, I'm gonna be upset because that's gonna be his 10th year. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Gonzo, we talked about that. After the 10th year, then you go off the ballot, correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You go off like the regular voters ballot that you're always on, but then you do have the MLB writers that can vote you in, which is why Fred McGriff also got voted in this year. He got voted off the actual ballot last year because it was his 10th year, but he got voted in this year by the baseball writers or whatever that secondary category is. So Billy Wagner can still get in. He just probably will have to wait until he gets into that secondary category to get in.
And I just don't understand why he hasn't gotten in. I mean, if you put Mario Rivera off to the side, He's got to be the next best dominant closing pitcher in baseball.
Trevor Hoffman.
I don't know, man. I kind of put Billy right there with Trevor, though, man. I like Trevor Hoffman. I see with the pot. I get that, but look, man. I watched Billy for years, man. This guy was just ferocious, man. Like I knew if Billy Wagner was going to the mound, okay, game's over. We're done. Just get me to the ninth, let Billy take over, and we're done. Just like the Yankees did with Mario, and just like they did with Padres did with Hoffman. I mean, it's all the and if even if you want to put Billy at number 3, okay, so be it. But still, how does that not garner him getting into the Hall of Fame at that position?
Yeah, especially when he's 6th all time in saves with 422. You look at who's ahead of him. You have Raleigh Fingers, who's 5th, Hall of Famer. Goose Gossage, who's 4th, Hall of Famer. Bruce Sutter, Hall of Famer. Hoffman, Hall of Famer. Rivera, Hall of Famer. Lee Smith, Hall of Famer. Yeah. So everybody that has more saves than him is a Hall of Famer. Everybody that has 400 saves is a Hall of Famer. So I'm with you. I don't understand how he doesn't get more recognition, how he has not gotten in yet. And now you have to look at, granted, the guy has struggled a lot the last several years, but Craig Kimbrell's at 394 saves right now. Chances are Craig Kimbrell is going to get to 400 saves this year. Chances are he's going to pass Billy Wagner. John Franco's at 424. And Francisco Rodriguez is at 437. So Craig Kimbrell could move all the way up to the top 5 in saves.
And how many years has Craig Kimbrell been in the league?
I think it's just a little 10th or 11th year. 11th year.
Right. Okay.
But once he hits that 400 mark, is he going to be in the same position as Billy Wagner and not get the respect he deserves? And especially if he has a 45. Theoretically, if Craig Kimbrell has 2 more 40-save seasons, he's going to move into number 3 all-time in saves. And that at that point should solidify his case as a Hall of Famer. But Wagner, like I said, should be in the Hall of Fame too. He's got over 400 saves.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if somebody came on Facebook and said, I'm pissed off that Scott Rowland got the Hall of Fame and Billy Wagner didn't, I would support that. But if you're telling me that Andrew Jones should be the one getting into the Hall of Fame over Scott Rowland, I'm going to tell you to go jump in the river.
Yeah, and the other thing that people don't realize about Billy Wagner is he's 2nd all-time in saves by a left-hander.
Yeah.
John Franco had 2 more than him at 424, and Wagner has 422. No other left-handed reliever has more than 300 career saves. I think Aroldis Chapman's the closest at like 278 or 279.
And you know what was interesting to me is Mariano Rivera and Billy Wagner both had the same mound entrance music. They both used Enter Sandman to take over the mound. What a time to be alive, man.
Stat guy, what do you think about the Hall of Fame? Do you think it's starting to maybe lose some of its mystique, or lose some of the people are starting to lose some maybe respect for it because of the voters and how some people should be in that aren't in, and some not even because of baseball issues? It seems like the last couple of years the Hall of Fame's been taking some hits.
I think people have gotten away from what the numbers actually mean because of the era the players played in. Like Fred McGriff was a great first baseman. No one's going to deny that he was a great first baseman. He was probably a top 10 first baseman during his time. But if you stack up his Hall of Fame numbers with a lot of the first basemen that are in the Hall of Fame right now, he doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers. He got in just because he was a consistent hitter pretty much every year. You knew you were going to get like a 280 average out of him. You knew you were going to get 25, 30 home runs and about 90 RBIs out of him every year. He was just very consistent. And you look at all the guys getting into the Hall of Fame now, like David Ortiz. Yes, David Ortiz deserved it. But there's players that are getting in right now that I don't think deserve it. But they're getting in because the ones that played during the steroid era are the ones that are getting punished. Just because everyone is so uptight about the steroid issue, which it is what it is. It happened. It's over. It's done with. But if it didn't happen, I think all of us can agree, baseball would be dead. And the reason why baseball came back was the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run races in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was the year that Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs. It was when Alex Rodriguez was hitting 50, 60 home runs. That 10-year window from 1998 to 2008, which is known as the steroid era, is what saved baseball and it's what made baseball what it is today. I don't care about steroids. Yes, it's technically illegal, But back then it wasn't frowned upon because baseball knew people were using it, and yet they still let them use it. But steroids are not. You still have to have the hand-eye coordination to hit the damn baseball.
No. We're not going to go that direction. That's a bullshit, weak argument, Stat Guy. And I love you to death. You're my boy Blue, but that's a weak-ass argument. I'm going to tell you why it's a weak-ass argument. Because every damn person that makes it to the MLB has hand-eye coordination. You don't get to the MLB without having hand-eye freaking coordination.
But I'm just saying it makes you stronger.
Let me dissect your weakness. Okay, let me dissect your weakness.
Steroids don't make you hit the ball better.
It makes you hit it farther, but you still have to have that consistent contact to put the ball in play. The biggest one that I'm going to use an example for is Barry Bonds. Because steroids or not, Barry Bonds was the first ballot Hall of Famer. He was going to be a 500 homer, 500 stolen base guy, 300 batting average guy no matter what he did. Yeah. But because he used steroids for probably the final 5 years of his career, he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame because of it, and it's bullshit.
But, I will say one thing about baseball, though. Baseball is kind of fairly consistent with that because look at Roger Clemens. I mean, look at the gamut of people, right? A-Rod crying out loud,
Let me ask you this, Jay. Do you believe that guys that use steroids like Bonds and them, do you believe they should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different thing, right? Do I think they should be allowed in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Okay. But and let me put it this way. You belong in the Hall of Fame if all of your statistical categories warrant it. It should just be, for example, if you're a positional player, it should just be your batting average that gets you in the Hall of Fame. It should be a conglomerate, right? It should be your fielding, your throwing, your base running. All those metrics should be looked at other than just strictly your batting average.
Yep.
The problem I have with steroids isn't the fact of whether or not they should be allowed in the Hall of Fame. The problem I have with steroids is it screws up the records. It screws them up. It takes away the validity of the record. I'm going to tell you why. You can't have Group A non-steroid users and then Group B steroid users and then try to mix the two and think it's okay. Because how many more home runs would Hank Aaron have had he been on juiced up? How many home runs, for the love of God?
Well, I know.
Hold on. For the love of God, we all know that Babe Ruth was the most drunkenest person ever going to the plate. How many more home runs would he have had he been on steroids? Because they're all saying
if you want to go by like that number wise, but what I'm saying, my argument was that they should be in the Hall of Fame because baseball knew what was going on, encouraged it.
Yeah.
And if you look at Barry Bonds again with some of his numbers, the guy had 2,558 walks, the most walks all time in the history of baseball. He had more than 1,000 more walks than strikeouts. So the guy not only could hit the baseball, but he had one of the best eyes anyone has ever seen in the game.
My problem with the Hall of Fame, though, isn't the fact that there's that it's not the steroid thing is not the issue for me. The issue for me with the Hall of Fame, for me personally, is they do kind of water it down. They do kind of let a lot of people in. Quite honestly, it's not the retirement, league. It's the Hall of Fame. I think if you make it to the Hall of Fame, their criteria should be 10 times harder. In other words, I think if you're a positional player, if you're in the Hall of Fame, you should be a 5-tool guy. And if you're not a 5-tool guy, why am I letting you in the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Fame is for just that. Famous athletes who have extraordinary talents that the common athlete doesn't have.
So yeah, if we go back to 2018, these are the people that have gotten into the Hall of Fame, and you tell me if you think they deserve to be in. 2018, Alan Trammell.
I would have put him in, but no.
Okay. 2018, Jim Thome.
I had to go back and look at his
634 home runs, but again, he played in the steroid era. But he wasn't there for the late 90s when it started. He was more so towards the early 2000s and then the back end of the steroid era, but he was still part of that steroid era.
Give me his defensive stats real quick.
Well, he was a DH. He didn't even play defense hardly.
Wouldn't tell me a part of some World Series team?
He was, I think, 90. I don't know if he was with. No, not with. I don't know if he was with the Indians.
He played with what? Cleveland. He played with the Sox.
He might have been part of the Sox in 05. So he was with the Phillies
I think. I think I'd put Thome in before I put Trammell in.
Yeah, and then you also have 2018 Jack Morris, 2018 Chipper Jones, 2018 Trevor Hoffman, yes.
Yeah, I'll go with Trevor Hoffman.
2018 Vlad Guerrero.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the 2018 class. So of the 6 people in 2018, I think 2 deserve to be in.
Yeah.
And then 2019, Lee Smith.
God, no.
Third most saves all time, 487.
Oh, wait. Lee. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, I mean, if his saves number is right there with everybody. Okay, so he have how many saves he had? He said
he had 487. That's the third most all time.
Oh yeah, then I'm letting him in.
Because
as a pitcher, you got to look at what was his strikeouts. I know what his saves was. How many strikeouts?
Let me pull that up quick.
How many strikeouts versus walks?
Strikeouts versus walks. He had 486 walks and just under 1,300 strikeouts.
And what was his WHIP?
3.03 ERA, 28.9 wins above replacement.
Jay would like to know how. Jay would like to know how big.
His WHIP is 1.256.
I don't really like his WHIP number, but everything else would suggest that he should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely.
And 2019, you also had Mariano Rivera, obviously. 2019, Mike Mussina got in.
How many Gold Gloves did Mike Mussina have?
4.
He was a catcher, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Pitcher for the Orioles and the Yankees.
No, you said Mike Mussina was a catcher, right?
No, Mike Mussina was a pitcher. He had 270 career wins.
I don't know much about Mike Mussina, to really be honest with you on him, to really speak on him. But yeah.
And then 2019, Edgar Martinez.
I think that's a close one.
Yeah.
That's the problem. If you have to think about it that long,
2019
you probably shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if you want to keep that Hall of Fame up to a certain standard.
2019, you also had Roy Halladay, which I'm okay with just because of his playoff resume that he put together.
Yeah.
And then you also had Harold Baines in 2019. So out of that group, 2, maybe 3, again out of 6.
Yep.
2020, you had Larry Walker. I don't think he was a Hall of Fame player. I'm not saying he wasn't a great player, but I don't think he was a Hall of Fame player. You had Ted Simmons, Marvin Miller, and Derek Jeter in 2020. So what? Derek Jeter's probably the only one that should have gotten in?
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Nobody got in 2021.
No, which was
I think you could make a case for Edgar Martinez. I was kind of looking up some of his stuff. I mean, 300 homers, 500.
Yeah, he was close.
300 on base percentage. Or no, excuse me. Yeah. At least is it 300? Is it no? Career batting average at least 300. A career on base percentage of at least 400, and then he had a slugging percentage of 5. So, I mean, he's got. I don't know what his fielding looks like, but his batting average was certainly.
He never. I don't think he ever played in the field. He was primarily a DH. I believe he was the first DH only player that's ever been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I was going to ask you about that. How do y'all feel about
Mike? We're talking about guys that got in the Hall of Fame, and should they have got there, and if the Baseball Hall of Fame is starting to lose some, maybe if it's mystique because of the way they let some players in that maybe shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and then keep some players out because of different reasons. But, sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to talk about that. I have an issue with the DH. I'm kind of on the fence of whether or not just a DH only guy should be allowed in the Hall, because to me that's so one dimensional.
I mean, David Ortiz in 2022 got in, and outside of his coach,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's why I'm torn, because I understand how good of a hitter Ortiz was. I understand how good of a hitter Tommy was. Obviously, Edgar Renteria, I understand how good he was. But I have a question: I struggle with, should a one-dimensional guy be allowed in the Hall of Fame? Because literally, I mean, that's all he's doing is hitting. There's no fielding, there's no throwing, there's no, anything else really truly in there. The only metric you're judging him on is batting average and slugging percentage. I mean, just the batting metrics. There's no fielding metrics anywhere in that equation.
I think it depends on how dominant they are, and how they like. What are their accomplishments like in the playoffs and stuff? Did they have big playoff moments? Did they, you know what I mean? Did they contribute to the team? How much did they contribute to their teams winning? I think a guy like if like a DH, they have to be pretty dominant, hitting a lot of home runs, high batting average, but then also have some career accomplishments to maybe to get them to that help get them to that Hall of Fame level.
So basically, what we're saying is, so to get a Hall of Fame, you got to be in one of three categories. Either you're a DH, a pitcher, or a positional player. I mean, so it's almost like you got 3 different categories to get in there.
Yeah.
Really, you can almost break that down to 4 categories if you want to put closer in there versus, a regular pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Like Dustin, Mike Hughes had a question. Sean Dunston is a Hall of Famer, but not Sammy Sosa. What do you think of that?
So Sean Dunston is a Chicago Cubs Hall of Famer. He's not like an actual baseball Hall of Famer, but I'm okay with Sean Dunston being a Hall of Famer, but I'm not okay with Sammy Sosa not being in not only the Cubs Hall of Fame, but not the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yes, I understand he took steroids. Well, technically, we don't even know he took steroids because he never admitted to taking it, and he never tested positive for it.
I'm so close. To sitting Mike Hughes where your papa went.
Like you had like certain people in the steroid era that admitted. You had like certain people in the steroid era that admitted to taking steroids, like Mark McGwire, Alex Rodriguez, Rafael Palmeiro, Jose Canseco, and people like that.
Or Roger Clemens that didn't admit, but
and still got caught though. But Sammy Sosa never admitted to taking steroids, and he actually never tested positive. So we can't sit here and say that he took them if he never tested positive. Do I think he was using something like HGH? Yes, I do, because if you look at what he looked like in 1995, and then you look at what he looked like in 1997, the weight room just doesn't do that for you. There's other things that go into making him look the way he looked towards the end of his career as opposed to when he first started playing baseball. But Sammy Sosa still had over 600 home runs. That's Hall of Fame numbers. I don't care what anyone can say. And if baseball doesn't want to put him in the Hall of Fame, I don't get why the Cubs haven't done it yet, because he was the definition of a Chicago Cub. He was the late 90s and early 2000s version of what Ernie Banks was for the Cubs when Ernie Banks was playing. Everybody in Chicago loved Sammy Sosa when he was playing. He put the butts in the seats. People came to watch him play. He interacted with the fans, and he did everything that baseball fans wanted from a player. He was the Mr. Cub of his time, like Ernie Banks was the Mr. Cub of his time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Sammy Sosa should be in the Hall.
Yeah, but if you let Sammy in, then you gotta let everybody else in too. So it's like if you agree on him, then you gotta agree on everybody.
I agree, but the thing that Jay, you don't have to let Mark McGwire in because he admitted to taking steroids and he got caught. You don't have to let Palmeiro in because he admitted to steroids and got caught. Same thing with Clemens. Sosa never admitted to taking it, and every time they tested him, he tested negative. So what are you holding him out of the Hall of Fame for? Because he was part of that home run race during the steroid era, and because he never admitted to not taking it, you're going to keep him out of the Hall of Fame?
So let me ask you this.
Even the guys that admitted to it, like Clemens and them guys, I still think they should be in the Hall of Fame.
I do too.
Like I said, baseball knew what was going on and was encouraging it because it was saving the game.
And Clemens was going to be a Hall of Famer before he took him out.
I don't think you can vilify them guys now when you were praising them guys when it was going on until Congress got involved and made you do something.
Because Clemens would have been a Hall of Famer even if he didn't take him.
And like Kurt Schilling, how do you feel about that situation? I think Kurt Schilling should be a Hall of Famer. But I think one of the big reasons he's not getting in is because of his political views and some of the stuff he said.
100%. That's the 100%. That's the reason why he's not.
And I think that's bullshit.
And the other thing too is Pete Rose. I understand what Pete Rose did. I understand what Pete Rose did. Obviously, what he did is horrible. But guess what? Betting is now allowed in Major League Baseball. So if you're allowing betting to happen in Major League Baseball, Pete Rose better be that first person going into the Hall of Fame next year, because that's why you're holding him out of the Hall of Fame, because you were not allowing betting in baseball. If you're going to allow betting to happen in baseball now, you better bring his ass into the Hall of Fame, because that's literally the only reason why you're keeping him out.
Yeah, but you're not keeping him out because of anything to do with his play or what made him a Hall of Famer. And that's what makes it even more bullshit.
And if you want to throw, I guess, the cherry on the top is, the guy came out and wrote a damn letter to Manfred, basically bearing his whole damn soul. I mean, how much more do you want from the guy? The guy's bearing his soul to you in a letter saying, yeah, I did it. I'm responsible. I took responsibility. Let the son of a bitch in. He's only the damn hit king. Let the hit king in, man. Fuck.
And if
now, watch this. If you want to keep Roger Clemens out and you want to keep Barry Bonds out because they deny steroids, then keep the son of a bitches out.
I mean,
if you want to let the steroid guys in, if you want to let the steroid guys in the Hall of Fame, I have no problem with that. But just admit to it, come clean and say, look, I cheated baseball. I used steroids. Okay. All right.
Give him like a special wing or something in the Hall of Fame. Like, don't put him with like the rest of the players, but name like.
Could you imagine that walking the Hall of Fame?
Special wing, you call it the steroid wing.
Hey, you go to the NFL
Hall than the other wings since it's all steroids.
You go to the NFL Hall of Fame. The NFL Hall of Fame is broken into wings by like specific time frames in the NFL, and the players that played in those time frames get put in that wing. Yep. You could essentially put a wing in the Hall of Fame saying the steroid era and put those guys in there. You don't have to talk negative about them in that wing, but you can be like, these players put up Hall of Fame numbers, but due to controversy in this time frame, they have to be put in this section. They should.
Because the thing about it is, whether you like it or not, steroids is part of baseball's history.
Yeah.
And isn't that kind of what the whole Hall of Fame is? The history of baseball, the history of the greatest players of baseball.
You can't tell the history of baseball without
the steroid era,
without Pete Rose, and then the steroid guys, Bonds, them guys.
That's why, like, put a special wing in the Hall of Fame for guys like that were involved with, I guess, controversial scandals or whatever. But you cannot tell the history of baseball without that steroid era. You cannot tell the history of baseball without Pete Rose and a lot of these guys that you're keeping out of the Hall of Fame. You cannot tell baseball history without them. And if they're part of baseball history, they deserve to be where the rest of baseball history goes.
And that's why I think it kind of devalues the Hall of Fame when you don't have the guys in there like that tell the history of the game. Because that, like you just said, Jay, that's supposed to be the purpose of the Hall of Fame.
It is.
You can go walk through that Hall of Fame, walk through the different wings, and it tells the story of the game.
I just feel like there's in my opinion, I just feel like there's too many people in the Hall of Fame. I feel like there's too many people. I think there's. It's just you have different. You have different levels to the Hall. You got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 athletes in the Hall. It should be. Look, if you're a 5-tool guy as a positional player, and you're hitting, and you got all the metrics, that should be one of the qualifications for getting in the Hall of Fame. If you're a pitcher. They should look at your win-losses. They should look at, how many pitches you threw or how many different types of pitches you threw, strikeouts, walks. I mean, there should be more. It needs to be honed in. I think the quality of the players should be honed in a little bit more than what it is.
No, I mean, I can't argue that, but I agree. I think all the Hall of Fames in all sports are starting to do that some.
Oh no! Trust me. The way I feel about baseball, I don't know much about the Basketball Hall of Fame to really speak on it, but the NFL Hall of Fame, absolutely.
I think the NHL Hall of Fame and the Basketball Hall of Fame are the two closest to giving guys that deserve to be in, and keeping guys that deserve to be out.
Right.
Yes, you still have.
When I think of Hall of Fame, though, I just think of like unicorns.
Well,
I think like the unicorns of baseball, right?
Here's my biggest problem with like the not my biggest problem, but another problem with Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. If a guy's on a ballot for 10 years, 12 years, if he's not voted in like the first 3 or 4 years, he's probably not a Hall of Famer. I mean, these guys shouldn't be getting held out for all. I mean,
with the exception of like Clemens and Bonds and them, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I'm saying, like they shouldn't be held out years and years for stupid shit, and then you shouldn't have guys that it takes 10 years to get in because you keep looking at their numbers. Like, their numbers they're not playing no more. Their numbers haven't got any fucking better. So how are they in the Hall of Fame now? But you couldn't put them in 12 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
That's one problem I've always had with the Baseball Hall of Fame. Because like Bonds, Schilling, I think all them guys should be in because they should have never been kept that long. But then you get guys that are on the ballot for 12, 13, or 10 years, and then they finally let him in on that 10th year. Well, why is he a Hall of Famer now, but he wasn't a Hall of Famer?
And the crappy part about that is you have to wait 5 years from after the fact that you retired to get put on that ballot. So you could have a player that's already been sitting for 5 years, and each year he's getting closer and closer and closer to getting to the Hall of Fame based on the percentage of votes he gets. But all of a sudden, here comes year 6 on the ballot, and he gets put with guys like David Ortiz, Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman. Well, that 60% vote he had is now going to go down to 30% because of who was on that ballot the year that happened. So that's a lot of the reason why these guys are on the ballot so long is because they're put with a lot of guys that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame more than them, but they're still garnering enough percentage to be kept on that ballot. But it just seems like every year they get put on that ballot, their percentage is staying the same or they're losing percentages because they're getting put with guys that you know are going to get in. They're not getting put with guys that put up comparable numbers. Like if you would put Chipper Jones, Edgar Martinez, Mike Piazza, Ivan Rodriguez, and guys like that who are in the Hall of Fame together on that same ballot, all of them you can argue have similar numbers from when they played. Do you think any of those guys would get into the Hall of Fame if all 5 of them are on the ballot at the same time and have the same exact numbers?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you put those guys up against maybe like a Mariano Rivera, a Trevor Hoffman, and those guys. I don't think they get in the ballot then if they are against guys like that. It just happens to fall where these guys fall on the ballot the year that they fall on that ballot.
Well, but yeah, see what I'm saying, what I think of, I don't think it should matter who else is on there. If you're really a Hall of Famer, you should get in. But I just think the way that voting goes, it should, because to me is how are you you're getting 50% of the voting. If you're only getting 50% of the voting, and you have to wait 9 years to get 65 or 70, if we're keeping the Hall of Fame at a certain standard, you probably shouldn't be in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think there's better ways. I think baseball could handle a lot better than what they do. I don't know. We got a lot of guys that I think should be in the Hall of Fame, and you got some that maybe shouldn't or be right there at the bottom of maybe what should be like a standard of a Hall of Fame player.
And the crazy thing is that, because they have let so many people in that, I think we all agree does not meet what we would consider our standard for Hall of Fame. Baseball can't go back and retract it now because if they go, otherwise you're kicking people out of the Hall after you done put them in. I mean, it's like you're just damned. It's like you're going to live this for the rest of eternity because there's nothing you can do to truly rectify it. Because once you made him in and once you fully put him in, you've just set that precedent pretty much forever. Because what's to say that 10 years from now, when they're putting people in, and you're like, well, why didn't this guy get in? Because like Stat Guy, Stat Guy knows a lot of people that got in that shouldn't have got in, and like where's the comparison? Because you done let these weaker people in. Where do you draw the line? Because now anybody can make a case that they should be in the Hall of Fame because of lesser qualified people in the Hall of Fame.
You make a wing that said the Hall of Fame fuck up wing. you put him in that group.
Yeah, like, hey, do you hit a reset button, and start making different wings, I mean.
And I think
how many wings they gonna have? They probably got about 20.
And I think I think ultimately that's why they created this new voting, or not necessarily voting criteria, but the thing that Fred McGriff got in on. Yeah. I think ultimately that's why they created it, because they're seeing guys that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame left out of the Hall of Fame, and they're seeing guys get voted in that rightfully shouldn't get voted in. So granted, this isn't the same process. You're not getting the same recognition as the people that are getting voted in are getting, but you're still getting the recognition you're deserving, and you're still getting into the Hall of Fame one way or another. It's just going about it a different way.
Because you get baseball writers that'll keep people out of the Hall of Fame just because they have a personal grudge against them.
Exactly. And that 1% vote could be what costs you the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That shouldn't have nothing to do with the guy getting the Hall of Fame. Where, oh well, I think the guy was a douchebag. I don't like him, so I'm not going to vote for him. Well, that's
Can you imagine if
First of all,
Scott Boras was voting for Hall of Famers? How many people he would keep out just because of personal grudges?
Yeah, and I think that shows up for some reason to me more in baseball than maybe the other Hall of Fames.
Right.
There was something else. I read an article earlier. Oh, I read an article about is Joey Votto a future Hall of Famer?
He's that's an old Reds catcher, wasn't it?
No, first baseman.
Or first base. I apologize. First base.
He's still on the team.
Got 2 years left.
He was hurt.
He's still on the team?
Yeah, he was hurt most of the season last year.
He's got 2 years left on his contract.
God, how that dude's got to be old as dirt.
39 years old.
Yeah, I was about to say, damn, that's going back in time.
297 career hitter, 342 home runs, 1,100 RBIs, almost as many walks as he has strikeouts, over 2,000 hits.
I think he is, but I'm also pretty biased when it comes to Joey.
I mean, we always quote one of my favorite players. The batting averages and the batting stats. What was his fielding like?
Oh, he's a gold glover.
He was a good fielder, but
he's got like three gold gloves. Yeah.
Okay.
If he gets to 400 home runs, I think he guarantees him a spot in the Hall of Fame.
If he would have been, there was years, Jay, if he'd have been on a better team, that he would have been right there as MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a stretch where, I mean, his name was mentioned for MVP quite a few years, but I think if he'd been on a better team, he would have won MVP because, I mean, that has something to do with it. But he was good, or he is good, I should say.
Yeah, they would have gave him MVP for not being on the good teams because that shows you when you really are valuable.
I mean, it does, but there's only been one MVP in baseball that has come from a losing team.
Okay, I'll buy it. Who?
When John Carlos Stanton hit 63 home runs with the Marlins.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Because like Goldschmidt and Votto used to battle for that National League MVP. There was years it seemed like 2 or 3, 4 years in a row they were top 2 or 3 names always, but it seems like Goldschmidt always edged them out a little bit.
God, how old is Goldschmidt now?
35.
Yeah. I'm about to say he's in that mid to late 30s.
I think if Votto gets to 400 home runs, he's guaranteed to get in. I still think he will get in, but I think if he gets to 400 home runs, he'll be a first or a second ballot just because of the consistency that he had his entire career up until the last couple of years when the injuries have gotten to him.
Yeah.
Because he would be over –
the dude don't hardly strike out. He has one of the best eyes in baseball, man. His walk rate's great. I mean, he's especially before, like you say, his injuries slowed him down some at the plate. He was a nightmare because of that. He didn't swing at bad pitches.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You got to wait 5 years after you retire from baseball to be eligible for the Hall, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Give or take.
So I would say probably 2028, then Pujols should be in the Hall of Fame because you got to imagine he's got to be a first-time ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you die, like Roy Halladay died, he was put on the ballot 3 years after his playing career because he passed away. So there are obviously ways to get on that ballot sooner. But obviously you want to be alive to witness your Hall of Fame induction. But really the only way that you can get on a ballot sooner than the 5-year period is if you pass away or if you have like ALS or something like that where you may not live to see your Hall of Fame induction, so they'll put you on the ballot sooner so you can at least be there for it.
So I think that's what they're going to do with Pete Rose. I think the year after Pete Rose dies, they'll put him in the Hall of Fame.
Is he in the Reds Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he is finally, because they couldn't put him in until baseball finally gave him permission to, since he was banned from the game.
I think that's the first
a few years ago. No, it's probably been 5-6 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. He got put in the Reds Hall of Fame finally.
I think that's the first step of him getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think baseball wanted to see if the Reds would put him in first. And now that the Reds did, I think that might be the first step to be like, well, I guess the Reds are willing to forgive him. Maybe we not necessarily should forgive him, but maybe we should at least be like, hey, we understand how great of a player you were. We don't agree with what you did, but we're not going to punish you anymore because you still were a great player.
He made the first bet at the new sports book that is in the
I saw that.
And he's in Great American Ballpark. He made the first bet. He bet on the Reds to win the World Series. Just the irony of that. You know, I mean, what he's down there for, they opened the damn sports book in the Great American Ballpark where he spent a lot of his career, and then they have him make the first bet. But he's not in the Hall of Fame because of it.
Such irony. Such irony on all of that, man. I mean, honestly, such irony.
Yeah, it does.
And even if you don't want to let him in, or if you want to hold that whole betting thing against him, you know, from betting. I mean, he was betting as a coach. He wasn't. I don't think. I mean, if he may have been doing it as a player, I'm sure he probably was doing it as a player, but he wasn't caught as a player. He was caught as a coach. So I would still let him in as a player. If nothing else, don't let him in as a coach, but let him in as a player.
Yeah.
Dustin, what do you think about Newt Bear and Yoshida named to Japan's WBC roster? Now we got the World Baseball Classic coming up here real soon.
Who's the first name you said?
I think it was Newt Bear.
Newt Bar? Newt Bar?
Okay, I can't read.
Lars Newt Bar?
What kind of name is that?
That's the That was the Cardinals rookie last year that freaking tore the cover off the baseball.
Yeah.
And then Cespedes, however you pronounce it, he's on a Cuba's squad.
Yolque Cespedes?
Yeah, Cespedes.
Yes, Yoenis Cespedes is his little brother.
Gonzo. Your last name was Gonzalez. How you not say them names? How you gonna let a white man tell you how to say a Latin name? God, what a time. You know what? That's it. What a time to be alive, man. I never thought I'd see the day. And especially a guy from Wisconsin, for crying out loud.
Dude, I'm a Latino that was raised in the Midwest and was never taught Spanish or anything. No, seriously. I don't know. My grandpa didn't teach none of his kids Spanish. The only time I ever heard my grandpa speak Spanish when he was on the phone with like his sister, and he talked 100 miles an hour. But I don't know. For some reason, my grandpa never got his kids to learn it, so we never learned it. So yeah, I'm a non-Spanish.
Hey, listen, you're not the only one. Hey, like I said, my ex-wife was Latina, and I'll never forget it. I mean, we were going through a parking lot one day, and this lady was lost. This old Hispanic lady, she was lost, and she starts speaking Spanish to Val, and Val looked at her like she done lost her damn mind. And the lady looked at her like, and she just kind of gave her like this ugly look, and I'm like, look, you just got rejected by your own race,
dude. Before my health issues, I was a plumber, and I started with this company. And me and this guy we go to a job, and this lady starts speaking Spanish. He looks at me, and I look at him and said, I ain't no fucking help. I don't have a clue what the hell she just said. And he said the same thing you say. He goes, your last name is Gonzalez. I said, I understand that, but I have no clue.
All I know is the Dominican Republic roster for the World Baseball Classic is freaking scary. Jay, when you have Jeremy Pena hitting 7th in your lineup, that shows you how scary the Dominican Republic roster is.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, let me just make one quick note. If you have a Hispanic last name and you can't speak Spanish, I'm going to put a motion on Congress that your name must be turned in. Hey, I'm going to say your name must be turned in, and you can no longer claim Latino descent.
Oh, shit.
So from now on, I want to see Chris Smith, sports
Smith.
Chris White.
Chris White. Can I get Chris White, please? It's like comparing Taco Bell to like a more authentic Mexican restaurant. It's like, what the hell are we doing?
MLB investigating Clevenger over abuse claims.
Yeah, Michael Clevenger can sit like Trevor Bauer sat.
What are they going to do with Clevenger? I mean, the more I read into what Clevenger was accused of, especially, the part where he's spitting on an infant was chewing him.
Clevenger's a nutcase. He always has been.
I mean, there's a nutcase. I'm a nutcase. There's a lot of nutcases in the world. It doesn't mean that. That's despicable. That's not even a nutcase. That's just despicable. That's like the lowest form of human.
Thank you, Damon.
Hey, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm American. Look. I'll be honest with you. I'm the first one that don't speak English correctly. My sister is an English teacher or an English major, and she corrects me all the time. So trust me.
Well, see, you probably drive her nuts, don't you?
Oh man, bro, it's terrible. It's terrible. But if I don't get it from my sister, I get it from my wife because she's also a teacher. So I get it, man. I get it. Hey, I get it 3 different ways, man. Let me tell you. So I'm thinking about changing my name. I just don't know of any other foreign language that I can speak correctly. So I might just be screwed.
Yeah. Any other big news, Dustin, you know about coming out like the World Baseball Classic?
No, I just know that they are going to start reporting to camp, I believe, the week after pitchers and catchers report. So I think 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever that is.
So yeah, I was going to say right around about a month.
Yeah, and then they'll have a couple exhibition games against major league teams that are going to count as spring training games. I think they're going to have like 2. And then they're going to be off to their respective cities for the World Baseball Classic.
So that's what I was curious about. So when Major League Baseball players that are competing in the World Baseball Classic, they're going to miss part of their spring training then with the regular club, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think any of them really care because they're going to be seeing a hell of a lot better quality at the World Baseball Classic.
Oh no! Trust me. As long as you're playing baseball, you're still getting the reps in that you need. I was just saying that there had to be an overlap there, so where you probably are missing some of your spring training.
Yeah, but like Dustin said, you're playing at a higher level. You're playing at a higher level than spring training games. And I think it's a good thing for baseball or for the clubs in spring training because even more of your younger guys get to play more in spring training while these guys are gone doing the World Baseball Classic. So I think it can be a good thing for some of these clubs for them younger players to get some more reps in spring training that they might not get if them players were there.
Yeah. And there's news out of Houston that I'm surprised Jay didn't bring up.
I probably haven't seen it.
Jay missed something about the Astros.
Yeah, Astros have brought in 2 very interesting candidates for the GM job.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And that would be
Atlanta Braves Vice President of Scouting Dana Brown.
Oh.
He interviewed on Monday.
Nice.
And Brad Ausmus interviewed yesterday.
Yeah, no, you can keep Ausmus. Nothing against Ausmus, but
and the Colts interviewed Jeff Saturday for the second time yesterday as well.
Yeah, how do you feel about? Hold on, before I go that way, let me finish that. I like the Atlanta Braves prospect better because I like a guy who has scouting knowledge, which I think helps for bringing in players and things like that. So I would like for my GM to have a good amount of scouting knowledge, and the Braves have a great organization. So I would be okay with if he lands that job, that'd be fine. I mean, nothing against Ausmus, but.
And those 2 have been added to the list of Bobby Evans, who was the GM of the Giants from 2015 to 2018, and James Harris, who has been promoted to assistant GM of the Guardians. So that's the top 4 candidates are narrowed down to right now.
Well, out of those 4, I still like. I mean, I don't know what the other 4's backgrounds are in terms of assistant GM, like what their specialty is, but. If you got scouting or if you were a scout at some point, and those are the kinds of GMs I like because those are the ones that really know the talent and can evaluate the talent correctly to bring into your organization. So, yeah, I would definitely like to see that happen.
So James Harris specializes in player development. So he was the head player development for the Cleveland Guardians in 2016 when the Guardians went to the World Series. Bobby Evans basically worked his way from the bottom up. He was a minor league administrative assistant in 1994. He got promoted to director of minor league operations in 98, director of player personnel in 2005, vice president of baseball operations in 2009, and then he's also worked in the commissioner office the last 3 years.
And that's great. So he's got a great administrative resume. I don't want a freaking administrative resume. I want a guy that can look at baseball talent and evaluate baseball talent. The other one that you mentioned, though, the first one I think from the Guardians that was in player development, I would be okay if they brought him in too, for sure, because that's what I would like to continue to see with the Astros. That's one of the things I think the Astros have going for themselves is their development and their scouting. And so if you want to bring a GM that either has scouting or player development, background, then I think that would fit in really well with the Astros.
What makes that James Harris even more interesting from the Guardians was that he spent 3 years working with the Philadelphia Eagles, 6 years working at the University of Oregon, and he was also a consultant for the 49ers from 2008 to 2012.
Okay, well, that's great. The Astros on the football team. So what the
But
hell?
I'm just saying he's got like multiple sports background, so he knows.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's interesting. It is fascinating that he has a lot. It sounds like he's got more football acumen than he does baseball acumen. But I don't know. I'm still, of course, they'll know more and more in the interview process. But I'm still leaning more towards that Atlanta Braves guy. I think that'd be a phenomenal one to get. But it's interesting. I knew that. I mean, they were going to have to interview a GM at some point. I just don't understand why they waited so long to interview a GM candidate, especially when we have free agency going on. That's the only thing that doesn't make sense to me.
Hey, some of these clubs and all sports, the management does some strange things.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just feel like, I still feel like we missed the bus on Vasquez, letting him go or not getting him re-signed. I thought that was a huge miss on the Astros' part. I would have liked to seen him get back under contract and continue mission because he was a huge instrumental part in the Astros World Series championship. I mean, he played a countless number of big games, calling big games. And at this point, I mean, I think you'll get maybe another 1 or 2 more seasons out of Maldonado, and I think he's done at his age. So, God, that would have been a nice transitional move over.
All right. Well, I was going to say let's get your final thoughts, but let's look at this real quick. Mark Gray should be a Hall of Famer, Mike, according to Mike Hughes. What you guys have any thoughts on that?
Oh, that's that guy going that one. I got to look at that. See what he did. I don't know shit one about.
I mean, if you're looking at his home run numbers, no, he only had 173 career home runs, but he had a 303 career batting average, almost 2,500 hits. He's another guy that has more walks than strikeouts. He has 1,075 walks and 642 strikeouts. So he's another guy that just knew how to put the ball in play. He had over 1,100.
Why we're so hung up on home runs so much?
Well, he had over 1,100 RBIs and only had 173 home runs. The guy knew how to drive in runs despite not hitting the ball at the yard.
Yeah.
Hey, one it is we need to have a topic that's what's more important, home runs or on base percentage, because I think a lot of times we put so much emphasis on home runs that it takes away from what I think the real true stat is, which is on base percentage. You know what I'm saying?
That could be something we could talk about. That could be something we could talk about tomorrow.
That's just the way I'm just saying baseball's played now.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, you know what though, and again, I'm sure we'll talk about this tomorrow. But now that the shift has gone away, how much more now will the on-base percentages get picked up? How much more will small ball finally come back to MLB, and we get away so much from the long ball now that the shift has gone away?
It's still going to be home run or strikeout. That's just how baseball's played now. Not enough teams use small ball anymore because they don't need to. You look at the Atlanta Braves last year. You look at the Atlanta Braves last year, for example, when they ended up winning the NL East, they ranked 13th out of 15 teams in the National League in on-base percentage. But yet, they finished second in the National League in runs scored because they led the National League in home runs. So when they did put people on base, they were hitting home runs to drive them in.
And in this analytical world, I don't see small ball coming back with all the analytics now as well, because all the percentages is about, like he said, home run or strikeout.
Like if you can score 3 runs on 1 hit, you will take that. You will take that over scoring 1 run on 3 hits. So people don't care if you're hitting a 230 as a team, a 240 as a team. If you're hitting a 240 as a team and scoring 5+ runs a game, you're at least bringing people in when they're on base, as opposed to hitting 260, 270 as a team and only scoring 3 runs a game, because you could have a 13-hit game, like 13 hits as a team, and you would have about a 300 average for that game, and you might only score 2 runs. Because if it takes you 3 hits to score a run, you could have 13 freaking singles, for God's sakes. Or you could have a 3-hit game and have 6 runs and have all 3 hits be home runs.
Yeah.
And, let's get the final thoughts, gentlemen. What's your final thoughts, Jay?
Mike Hughes, you're on notice. I'll give you one more shot. I don't know how many times. I don't know why you keep calling the Astros cheat. Look, that's 2017. At some point, you got to let it go. Like that bad girlfriend. Just move on from her. It's going to be all right.
Hey, wait.
No, but seriously,
people don't.
Instead of
You're saying, wait a minute. Whoa, I got one thing before the final thought, because you just brought something up. You say that, but why don't people think the same thing about the steroid era? Oh, them guys shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Why don't people forget about that?
No, hey, look, I'm okay with them being in the Hall of Fame. I personally don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with them being in the Hall of Fame. But I have an issue with is them holding records. Is them holding records, in my opinion, that they shouldn't hold. I'm okay with them being in the Hall of Fame. I'm not okay with the records that they've taken away from legitimate baseball players that didn't dabble in the chemical.
Well, let me ask you this: Aaron Judge, is he the home run king?
Yeah, I mean, again, in my opinion, McGuire, and again, now to stat guy's point of view, Sosa was never, I guess, convicted of steroid use because his stuff was clean. I mean, I guess all they got on Sosa really is speculation. So, and on that regard, I would say no, because Sammy Sosa, correct me if I'm wrong, he got close to 70, didn't he?
66, 63, and 61.
66. So he's, in my opinion,
I say it's very wrong.
But unless you can come up with concrete evidence that he used steroids, I would still put him over Judge. But I do think that they should take away those records. Okay, yeah, I understand you hit 70-something home run, but you didn't do it clean. So because you didn't do it clean, I can't acknowledge that record. I don't see how baseball can acknowledge the record.
The only reason
why baseball knew it was going on and encouraged it. That's why they acknowledged it.
I understand they knew it was going on. But just because it goes on doesn't mean it make it right.
Yeah, the only reason why
they would have never done nothing about it if it wouldn't been for Congress, is what I'm saying. So baseball shouldn't punish them guys because of their negligence either.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Just because Congress didn't say it doesn't mean that baseball shouldn't still do something about it.
That's what I'm saying, though. The only reason baseball done something about it was because Congress intervened and made them. Yeah. So to me, baseball shouldn't punish these guys because they would have never done anything about it if they wouldn't have been forced to.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm okay with Barry Bonds making it or being the all-time home run leader with his 73 is the one thing that people forget to realize when it came to Barry Bonds that year. He would be lucky to see one pitch a game to hit because they were either pitching around him or intentionally walking him every single time he got to the plate. And when he saw that one pitch, he did damage. There was a 4-game series when the Cubs went to San Francisco that year, and I remember that because I actually went to the entire 4-game series because My family was out in San Francisco for that.
That really wasn't the sound effect I was looking for. I was almost looking for the wah, wah, wah.
Over the 4-game series that the Cubs and the Giants played that weekend. Barry Bonds saw a total of 13 pitches to swing at over those 4 games.
Hold on.
11 of the 13 pitches were either home runs or extra base hits. That shows you how good he was that year because he knew that he wasn't going to get anything to hit. So when he got that pitch to hit, he did damage with it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm totally on board. By the way, you know this is a badass show when our sound effects are just amazing. Bar none, best show ever with those sound effects, Gonzo. I'm just saying you're light years ahead of us. But let me say, man, I'm okay with them being in the Hall of Fame. I have no issues whatsoever with him being in the Hall of Fame. I just have an issue with you telling me that Barry Bonds is the home run king when we know damn good and well he's not. Because you can't go look. It's not apples to apples at this point. At this point, it's apples to oranges. Because the minute he introduced a chemical substance into his body, that altered it from what Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron.
He wasn't the only one that was doing that. So it wasn't like he was the only one that had that.
Again, I'm not
pitchers.
But you're getting off topic, Gonzo.
He was also facing pitchers that was doing it.
Talking about.
And he was also always do that. He was also facing pitchers that was taking steroids. So if it helps him so much, it's going to help them pitchers as well.
Truthfully, the only thing it would do is I get what you're saying, but it doesn't erase the fact that Hank Aaron hit 755 steroid free, and then you get this guy over here who has a competitive advantage over everybody else behind him.
I guess my question is, do we actually know that Hank Aaron did it drug free though?
Oh well, hell. Do we? Okay.
I'm not accusing.
Is that your argument? Is that your argument?
No, I'm not accusing him of doing it, but I'm just saying though, like,
son of a bitch.
No, I'm not accusing him. That's a weak ass argument.
No, Jay, let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. What I'm saying is, the steroid era was made public because of Congress. Because Congress stepped in and made baseball do something about it. Do we know that people weren't taking steroids in the 60s and 70s? No, we're never going to know that because Congress never had to step in and get involved. So, yes, Hank Aaron was the home run king for the longest time ever until Barry Bonds passed him. Babe Ruth was the home run king long before Hank Aaron passed him. Do we know that any of these players didn't take HGH or steroids or something that is banned in baseball? No, because nobody ever made it public.
Your argument is this. You want to give me some bullshit that's not founded. You want to give some quote-unquote hearsay, some quote-unquote circumstantial stuff, some stuff that you're just throwing out there without any evidence to back it up versus somebody that we know damn good and well did it.
Barry Bonds did it.
Your case is weak.
No, Barry Bonds did it, but Barry Bonds never tested positive the year that he hit 73 home runs. He tested positive after he hit 73 home runs. He never tested positive the year he hit 73. And that's the main reason why I will say Barry Bonds is still the single season home run king, because he got tested a Major League Baseball record 24 times the year that he hit 73 home runs. And all 24 tests came back negative. You cannot avoid 24 tests. So if he would have been taking,
if that was such a case, then why would we why would all of sports world be making such a big deal about it?
Because he tested positive the year after he hit the 73 home runs. So people think that he tested positive the year before that. People think that he was on steroids the years leading up to that 73 home run season when that wasn't the case. He tested positive later in his career because he was getting hurt. And a lot of players back then were using steroids because it helped them recover faster from their injuries. But the year that he hit 73 home runs, he never tested positive. You can't take something away from him if he doesn't test positive.
So just so we understand each other, if you inject steroids into your system, the prednisone to stay in your system for about 16 and a half to 22 hours. That's it. If you take it orally, they can show up on a urine test for up to 14 days. If injected, it can show up to 1 month. So my rebuttal to your buttle is, yes, he may not have tested steroids at that point in time, but 14 hours, depending on how he took the steroid, whether it be oral or injected, 14 hours to a month, he could have been taking steroids. There's periods of time.
There's
no concrete evidence that supports anything that guy has said here today.
There's 28 weeks in a baseball season. He was tested 24 times that year, which is the equivalent to once a week. So whether he was taking it,
do you know how he was taking the steroids?
Yeah, but he doesn't know when he's getting tested either.
No.
Random testing.
That's not the question. The question is, do you know how he was taking the steroids?
No, you don't. But I'm saying that you said that one that stays in your system 14 to 22 hours.
But if he takes it orally, it's only 14 to 22 hours.
Exactly. So what if he took it orally at 8 a.m. and somebody tested him at 12?
Yeah,
that would still be in his system
once a week. You don't know when.
But
he never knew when he was getting tested.
Times you can't tell me for everything you're saying. You can't say the opposite either.
I know I can't say the opposite, but what I'm saying is they made sure to test.
All we can do is go by the evidence in which we have. I'm sorry,
and that's what we're doing. And Barry Bonds is the home run king.
The evidence that we have is that he never tested positive the year he hit 73 home runs. That's the evidence that we have. The evidence that we have after that was, yes, he tested positive after 2003.
But your whole argument is based on conjecture. It's not based on fact. And that's my problem I have with it. What the problem I have with it is that it was known that Bonds did do steroids. When and how he did it, nobody really knows. Only he knows that. But we do know that he was on roids. And we do know that
probably 75% of the league would probably
that's kind of taint what he's done.
75% to 80% of the league was on steroids during that era.
Right, but 70 to 85% of the points wasn't going for the home run single season record or the home run altogether record.
That right there proves the point that steroids don't make you just a superhuman. 80% of the players are using it. Now all of them were putting.
No, that's not true. That's an invalid argument as well. It's invalid, and it's invalid. We do know that steroids does increase strength. It does increase your chemical makeup in your body, which does give you an advantage.
Hey Jay, I can make the argument that steroids helps pitchers more than it does a batter because the main thing steroids is recovery time. Recovery time. So actually, it can help a pitcher more than what it can help these hitters.
As long as a pitcher has good command of his pitches, then yeah, it would help him.
And it can help with velocity. So if you're already a good pitcher and you're taking, you're taking steroids, it can help. It can elevate your level. So he's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. As a pitcher, the only thing steroids would really do for you would be velocity. Right? It's not going to give you location. It's going to give you velocity.
Can you imagine
every time on your arm?
Can you imagine if Aroldis Chapman took steroids? How hard that man would have been throwing?
The problem with steroids, though, a lot of people don't talk about is it deteriorates your body.
It does.
So even though he may have thrown X amount of miles probably faster, it probably would have shortened his career down a little bit too because it does have an adverse effect on your body.
And why do you think the players that took it, you could immediately see when they got off of it? Because the moment they stopped taking it, their body broke down like it was glass.
I just thought it was kind of crazy when I remember seeing Barry Bonds with the Pittsburgh Pirates and seeing Barry Bonds with the San Francisco Giants, which, by the way, when he went with the Giants is when he got the single season record.
Yeah.
With absolutely a large amount of muscle mass put on.
Same with Sammy Sosa when he hit 66.
I'm just saying, I don't know if he's eating Wheaties. I don't know if he's eating extra protein.
He's eating spinach.
I don't know if he's pulling out some Popeye shit.
But all right, let's get back to final thoughts. I interrupted Jay's final thoughts. Jay, what's your final thoughts?
Man, my final thoughts is that Stat Guy's arguments are full of shit. I'm kidding. Stat Guy, I love Stat Guy, man. Stat Guy knows him. And he do make a good argument. And we can go all day on this, honestly.
I mean, Bonds admitted to taking HGH.
Okay, if you admit HGH, what else is there out there? I always say for every one cockroach there's a million more cockroaches you don't know about.
But I'm saying HGH was actually a substance that Major League Baseball was letting players use.
And 80% of the damn
for healing.
No, I understand it. I understand human growth hormone is one of, but there's many other different types of substances
but
out there.
Once Barry Bonds admitted to taking it is when baseball banned HGH. Just because everyone said, well, he's taking this substance to heal, but he's also taking this substance to
you're telling me you don't think that Barry Bonds did anabolic?
No, I know he did because he tested positive after that 2003 season.
Oh, I know.
But I'm just saying, up until that 2000,
I promise you, he was doing it before then too. Because you don't go from the Pirates Barry Bonds to the San Francisco Giants Barry Bonds and not have anabolic in your body. It just doesn't happen that way. It happened too fast. And Mark McGwire was the same way. If you look at Mark McGwire,
I mean, he was still a big guy though.
Yeah, but he got really big.
He got fat too, though.
It was stupid.
Like, he got fat in St. Louis. He was a fatty in St. Louis.
No, hey, I got to get out of here, but if I got final thoughts, it would just be that, hey, don't forget Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, we are going to start our wrestling Royal Rumble watch along. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be badass. Maybe if I can do a virtual reality wrestling or maybe a virtual reality power slap with Gonzo. You never know what you're going to see. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be freaking awesome. And also, last thing I got to do, and I got to get out of here and get my appointment, is don't forget with Unscripted, we come on tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can follow us on Twitter at Unscripted Guys, all one word, and TikTok, Unscripted Sports, all one word. Guys, it has been a pleasure. Gonzo, stat guy, I don't know if I'll see you at 1, but if I do, great. If not, I will catch you tomorrow. Gonzo, I'll see you at 1, brother.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Later,
that guy. What be your final thoughts for today, brother?
So I just looked up the 2024 Hall of Fame candidates for next year's baseball class. And looking at this list, I think we're going to have 2, maybe 3. Adrian Beltre's on that list. He's getting in. Bartolo Colon's on that list. I think he gets in. But then you have Joe Mauer, Chase Utley, Jose Batista, Adrian Gonzalez, Matt Holliday, Victor Martinez, Jose Reyes, Brandon Phillips, and David Wright.
Yeah, I would agree probably too.
I think Beltre and Colon get in for sure. I think Brandon Phillips has an outside shot because of the Gold Gloves. Because of the Gold Gloves that he got.
Outside chance because of that, and I'm a big Brandon Phillips fan, but yeah, I would say Phillips is outside chance. But
because I think he's got the most Gold Gloves ever at second base with like 11 or 12. I think that would be what gets him in. But the rest of that field is, in my opinion, not a Hall of Fame class because none of them, apart from Jose Batista, had 400 home runs. A couple of them in there didn't even have 300 home runs.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Around the Bases. You can also find Around the Bases on Spotify. You can get podcast form and video or video both on Spotify. So go check Around the Bases out there as well. You can also find it on the ASAP All Sports All Plays Network and also on GSR Gonzo Sports Room. Please hit that subscribe button at YouTube at Gonzo Sports Room at All Sports All Plays Network. We appreciate everybody joining us. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, join us today, 1 p.m. Eastern for the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. And then I'll also be live with Easy Money, a sports betting show. My picks so far this month are 56 and 49 for the month of January. So haven't got off to the greatest start, but over 50% when you're picking every day. That's pretty damn good. So come join us tonight or this afternoon for around 3 for Easy Money, a sports betting show. But I want to thank Jay McLovin, the stat guy Dustin Reese for joining me. And we will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. for another episode of Around the Bases. Hope everybody has a great Thursday.